So Sunday, May 3rd, and the weather is beautiful. Here come a few more people here. So I certainly don't hold it against anyone for being outside on this gorgeous summer evening. Oh, hi Molly. Welcome. So glad you could make it. I thought I'd be talking to myself again tonight. And I'm perfectly okay with that. Yeah, given the fact that it's the holiday and the first weekend of summer, it'd be maybe selfish to expect people to make time for a lesson such as this. And it's going to be a deep one. But, here we are. And this is a lesson that I've really wanted to put together for a long time. So it's finally here, and I'm very excited about it. We're going to give our friends a few minutes to join in. So I've dropped a worksheet into the Laywin group, and welcome. I'm inviting you guys to join the study group where I send out information in advance. So, we're covering a lot of vocabulary today, as we always do. And I try to give you guys a head start by giving you the worksheet at least a day in advance for you to read before the lesson to get an idea what to expect. So, it's coming in now. Okay. Well, where is it? There it is. Yeah. We're getting off to a bit of a slow start. I did promise last week that we would be more consistent about the time, and we certainly are this time. But given the fact that we've got the long holiday, I hope everyone's having a great weekend. To get a few other announcements out of the way, our center is expected to be opening up next week. So I really don't know if these online broadcasting lessons will continue indefinitely into the future. It's certainly been a very positive experience for me teaching these lessons to you. And if I can find a way to continue to do that on this platform or another, again, I will give you this information in the study group if you want to follow along. Here we go. So worksheets are in the work groups, and this is it. The topic is the introduction to the art of public speaking. And this is a little unrehearsed. I have so much to say on this subject, but it's always difficult to find the right way to begin these things. I stress to all of our students how vital this skill is: public speaking, communication. I've made a career out of public speaking for more than 10 years, I'd say. And it's absolutely it gets better with time, I suppose. I guess in the beginning, as you're developing your skills, gaining experience talking in front of groups, you are fighting against your own insecurities, your nervousness, your sense of trying to have everything well prepared and well rehearsed. And it doesn't matter how well prepared or rehearsed you are, you're always going to feel nervous for at least the first 10 minutes, maybe, in front of a large group. And so experience, the more times you get up on a stage or in front of a group of people, the more often you do that, I suppose you just adapt. you don't think about it quite as much, and that allows you to focus on your message. And that's really all that matters. It's not what you're saying or how well. I mean, it does matter what you're saying, and it does matter how well you're saying and how well you present it. But ultimately, I think the most important aspect that you need to focus on when you're standing in front of a group is to know your message. In other words, people won't listen to you if you're reading out of a script. And it could be the best, most well-written script. It could be the most well-written script in history, I suppose. But if you're just reading it and not making eye contact, and you don't firmly believe in what you're saying, what you're reading, it's not going to resonate with the audience. So I often try to encourage our students in classes to use the opportunity to practice expressing themselves, expressing their opinions, formulating opinions on various different current day issues related to the environment, education, the economy, popular culture, I suppose. And I also try to educate our students on topics that they might not get a chance to learn about in school. Stuff that I learned later on in high school and in university. I'll give you guys an introduction to that. Because for most of you, as you move on through our courses and get into the intermediate, into the business intermediate, and then you want to graduate from our courses and take a fluency test, an IELTS test, or some other fluency test, study abroad, you're going to encounter these situations where, particularly if you're, in an academic setting, people are going to ask you about your opinions. People are going to ask you to express or summarize an idea, and you might have never had any exposure to it. You've never learned about it in your history books. So this is what I want to share with you. How to what are the background topics that you should be aware of, and how to go about formulating an opinion and expressing your point of view on these kinds of things. So when it comes to public speaking, standing in front of a group and communicating, you have to know your message. You have to know where you stand on the issue. Okay? And then there are techniques of how to structure a presentation or a speech, and techniques as to how to communicate, convey evidence that support your point of view. We're going to get into all of that tonight. And later on as well. As I said, I've been wanting to teach this lesson for a very long time. I just hadn't got around to it. The topic is Introduction to the Art of Public Speaking. I can't teach you everything that I know in this 1 hour. What I hope to do is introduce you guys to the vocabulary, the key words. Because these are the high frequency keywords that you'll see again and again as we move into this, area of research, I suppose. So, my goal for this lesson, I know we're talking about speech and idioms, and another word for that would be jargon. These are issue-specific words that have a particular meaning in the discourse of this kind of issue. So, when it comes to the topic of public speaking, communication, writing speeches. There's a whole lot going on. Fundamentally, it's all about sharing ideas, coming up with ideas and sharing them. And expressing, articulating how you came to holding your idea, your point of view. And why it would be beneficial for somebody else, your audience, to adopt and agree with your point of view. So maybe that's pretty high level stuff. If you've never spoken in front of a group before, I'll give you some steps, some pointers to guide you through the process. The workflow of preparing a little presentation without getting overwhelmed. So here's the outline. Okay, so it's always a vocabulary lesson to introduce to you guys the words that are commonly used in this type of subject, and to go along as we go along, define some of these words for you as well. And then to talk about the step-by-step approach to preparing a presentation, whether it be like 1 to 5 minutes to a full hour. So defining your topic and the purpose of your talk or sharing your idea. It always, maybe it doesn't start with knowing what you're going to say. Maybe it begins with research into a topic, and then as you gain familiarity with the topic, formulate for yourself your opinion or how you feel about the topic, where you stand on the issue, and what you are prepared to speak about with the time that you have. So that would be defining the topic and the purpose of your talk, and distilling the information of the topic into one idea or one simple sentence, and then outlining and structuring the talk. Not necessarily writing a script, but structuring the talk and your main points. We'll also look at sources of evidence and other techniques of persuasion. So when you're communicating an idea or you're giving your point of view, your opinion on a particular topic, people are going to wonder how and why you came to hold that point of view, particularly when it's on a serious matter. Then you need to back up or verify your claims with evidence. So we'll look at what those sources of evidence are, and then you can strengthen your message with the style of delivery. So advertising and politics, marketing, and public relations rely heavily on persuasion and rhetorical technique. They don't have a lot of time to communicate to large groups of people using evidence. Sometimes there's just no time for that, so they rely on rhetoric. But anyway, we'll get into the vocabulary of that, and how to deliver a powerful speech using your body language. Okay. So again, thank you for joining, and let's get into the worksheet. I'll try to define these words for you. Argue is a verb, and to argue is to make a claim or on a particular issue, a social problem, let's say, the problem of smoking cigarettes, tobacco, You can either argue in favor of, controlling and regulating through price increases and preventing the sale of tobacco products. That could be what you want to argue. So it's where you stand on an issue and what kind of solution you may be proposing. An argument is one that is it's your position on a topic, how you feel about it, and you can explain your thought processes behind it using sources of evidence, using reasonable thinking. An audience. The audience are the people who are listening to your message, watching your speech. Cadence. Cadence is the rising and falling of your voice. So in music, it's the melody coming to a crescendo, I think. So cadence is how you use your voice, your intonation, your volume, and your pace, your speed, your pauses. That's what cadence is. Charisma, a noun to describe a kind of characteristic or quality, attribute of a person who has an ability to capture or captivate the attention of audiences. So charisma, a lot of Hollywood actors are known for their charisma. They might not be the most intelligent people, the most articulate people, but they can still, through their body language especially, and their confidence, and their ability to perform and emote or communicate emotion, mostly confidence and other strong emotional states. We call that charisma. And political leaders as well. Political leaders aren't necessarily the ones who have the best qualifications, but they're willing to do the job of being the figurehead, the public face of the party. And the very successful political leaders are those that have the charisma to lead and galvanize a group of people, a group of followers. So charisma is just popularity. And a conference. Conference is one of those venues, one of those places where people go to listen to public speakers. There are some groups you can join here in Nantong, I think, where you can practice your public speaking. They exist in all cities. If you're part of any profession, you'll usually go to a conference once or twice a year to listen to other experts and to network with other professionals in your field. So again, like communication really matters if you want to develop your career. You need to win friends and influence people. Discourse. So think of a conversation. If you were to randomly tune into somebody's conversation, overhear some people talking at a party, you would pick up from little cues, little clues, even if you didn't really know what they were talking about. You might know the subject area that they may be talking about. So a discourse is a way of talking about a topic. Again, like keywords in a area of discourse may take on a specific meaning, as we're talking about idioms and slang and so on. It's an insider conversation. Those that have an expert knowledge in an area use language in a particular way. It's a kind of a shorthand to quickly go over abstract concepts. can't explain it any better than that right now. To engage, another verb. We can describe a speaker as charismatic and engaging, or a speech as engaging, or a speaking event as very engaging. And an engagement is a meeting. When people are getting engaged, they are committing to being together. So we can think of engaging as a meeting of people. And an engaging speaker or an engaging speech or public speaking event is one where people feel strongly connected, bonded with the speaker. They enjoy the speaker or the speech, the speaking, overall speaking experience, the event public speaking experience. Entertain, just to have fun. Evidence. So evidence is supporting information that's relevant to your point of view in the topic. Impact. The impact. Well, we used the word influence earlier, and if you take an idea, there's lots of different ideas out there. You have hundreds of ideas throughout the day, and not all of those ideas are your own. So other people shared an idea with you. Oh my God! Other people share an idea with you, and it sticks with you, and it becomes part of your worldview. That's the influence there. You've got to move quickly again. Insight. An insight. People go to these speaking events, or they listen to talk shows to get the insights of other people. Again, we all have years and years of education and experience and knowledge within us, and when we share it, we can give other people the benefit of our experience and a wisdom. So that's what insight is: a speaker who can communicate very honestly and demonstrate credible knowledge, said to be insightful. Confucius, Lao Kongsa, very insightful thinker. Material, just research material. We'll leave it at that. Metaphor. A metaphor is a tool of persuasion where you make a comparison between two things that are seemingly unrelated, and you're showing that there is kind of a similarity between the two. We'll leave it at that for the time being. Passion, like charisma, emotion, strong, positive emotion in the subject. Persuade, to influence, to convince, to help change somebody's point of view. Posture, part of body language. Propose, usually, as you are giving your opinion in these formal public speaking events, you're also expected to make some kind of proposal, like how you feel the issue should be resolved. You give a solution, a suggestion, a proposal. Ties into your idea, your thesis. Rhetoric. Rhetoric. Not evidence, but a style, a way of organizing your thinking, critical thinking, and rhetorical style. Hopefully we'll be able to cover that. Sincerity, like passion, like charisma, honesty. Stimulate, a verb. We can say that a speech is stimulating if it really excites. The thesis is the main idea, your point of view, and the topic. Okay, and then below we've got this little thing here, and this is just a simple little infographic that walks you through the 6 steps of preparing a speech, a presentation, and we'll come back to that at the end. Planning around the purpose and the topic. This is a big one. So purpose. The purpose is the why. What are you here to do? And how strongly do you believe in what you're saying? When you understand your purpose, or the purpose of why you're in front of the group, why you're speaking on a particular topic, and you believe in what you're saying, that's your purpose. You need to take some time to sort of kind of center yourself and come to terms with what you actually feel. Because when you're researching a topic, you might just want to get the whole thing over with as quickly as possible, but that's a little bit dishonest, and it will come off as a poorly prepared talk. You have to believe in what you're researching and talking about, and that takes some effort. And of course, you have to recognize why people are there to see you and listen to you. So there are many different kinds of speaking events, types, right? The social context. The social context. In other words, what kind of environment are you going to be speaking in is what you need to consider. Consider your audience and the venue, the environment. Consider the type of culture, right? What are the expectations around etiquette and behavior and dress? And the formality, the register of the language that you should use. Should you be formal or informal? What is considered to be the appropriate behavior? Corporate or academic? It's a whole different set of, it's a whole different discourse, let's say. Social or professional? Are people there to be entertained and to have to make friends, or is it professional? Are they there to get a job done? Formal or informal? Public or private? Consider, are you speaking to the public? Are you speaking to people that don't know you and you don't know them? Or maybe they know you, right? You're a public figure and you're representing an organization or something like that, but you don't know them. So all of these things you need to factor in how you represent yourself and how you want to the tone, the kind of the feeling that to communicate as well. Not just the information, but kind of a feeling, whether it be like a relaxed social or informal feeling that can be expected, or more of a professional one. What type of a speaking engagement is it? What is the purpose of the event? You're one of a group of speakers, and you need to kind of speak in a way that harmonizes with the rest of the event. It can be very awkward to watch somebody give a kind of a political speech at a fun awards ceremony or a wedding or something like that. You really need to, pay attention to the tone and what other people expect, what other people want, give people what they want. What is the purpose of the event? How does the presentation fit in with the event's theme or purpose? Again, there could be a theme of the event as well. Like each awards ceremony may take on a different kind of a theme. A political rally, a business meeting, a lecture, a debate. If you guys are, really, really enjoying this, I will upload the slides later on so that you can get these words later. Oops, missed one. Okay, where is the venue? The venue is where the speaking event is taking place. So what is the size? Consider how many people you'll be speaking to. I think the largest group of people is about 2,000. I'm comfortable with up to 200. Once it gets larger than that, I have difficulty thinking and articulating. So how many people will be there? That can really, really. And I think the reason why you get nervous in front of larger groups is because there's more distraction. You kind of feel what is called indifference. Indifference is just they don't care. right? When you're speaking to a small group of people and you can make direct eye contact with people, immediately people reciprocate and they cheer you on. They are invested in your success. It's a group bonding thing. People do like to have a focal point among a social gathering. It helps. I don't know. It helps. It helps with the socialization. People look to a leader. So when you have a small intimate gathering, people will be very, very supportive of of the person on stage. But as the groups get larger and larger, then you have just more distractions. Anyway, that's probably why people feel nervous when they're speaking in front of groups, because they don't like that feeling of indifference and not mattering. They just want to blend in with the crowd. They don't want to be up on stage and negatively perceived. So if you do have to speak in front of a group, a large group, and you're not comfortable with that, you really need to find ways to cope and preparing yourself, knowing how many people will be there, and sort of going through the emotional processing of that can help you to regain confidence and composure. Again, consider what could go wrong, the many things that could go wrong, sound equipment, the distracting environments. Maybe you have a really great presentation prepared and nobody can hear you, right? You just have to learn how to deal with that. And then you've got these different types of venues, like a hall, a conference center, a public square, a television studio. Like public speaking takes place in all different kinds of venues. Consider the keynote speaker. Who is the audience actually there to see? You or somebody else? In what capacity are you expected to speak? As a leader or a supporter? So in a business meeting, right? Maybe you're just there to report for your department, and it's the president or the general manager that is leading the event. So you need to, you need to adjust your style of presentation so that you show respect. You command respect and you show respect. You don't want to take too much respect, and you don't want to offer too much respect either. That's how you get the respect, I guess. Anyway, so another thing you need to consider is should you be high energy and attention demanding or more restrained and relaxed? You need to be flexible with handling both kinds of situations. Again, this is why actors are loved and admired, and people just are willing to forgive them for all of their flaws, all of their imperfections, because they can be very flexible and they adapt well to social situations. Like personally, maybe their lives are out of control, but when they're in a group, they know how to adapt to the group. They can be high energy, the life of the party if they want to be or if they need to be, and then they can also be more restrained and relaxed if that's what's appropriate, what's needed. Oops, went again too far. Okay, and again, here are some other verbs to take into consideration as you are moving through your talk. Right? There's the writing of your speech, and then there's the kind of the thought process and the feeling that goes into it, and the motivation, the aim. Right? How do you want your message to impact the audience? It can be one or more of these. If it's strictly to inform, that's great. Information like a news reporter would, to report. To teach, on the other hand, you have to adopt a different style of presentation. It's not good enough just to give the information. You need to try to change the delivery of the information so that different groups of people can get it and remember it, right? That's a whole other way of presenting, just teaching. To persuade, this is where you have to take a stance on an issue and stick to it. and bring out your evidence, argue, to entertain and to amuse, just to have fun, to motivate and to provoke, to motivate, to encourage, to provoke. Can sometimes have the opposite effect, but it's necessary if somebody's doing something wrong, or you got a big problem that you need to deal with. You need to kind of provoke, agitate. Okay, so considering the audiences, and we've considered the venue and who we're speaking to and where, like in what kind of cultural atmosphere, and then we can like look at each individual member of the audience. So a demographic is a particular sector of the population, and your audience members can be grouped into one or more of the following common demographics: age, gender, male or female, race and ethnicity, nationality, profession, income, education, marital status, political affiliations, religious worldview, lifestyle preferences, and geography. Try to do your research into the types of people that would likely be coming to your audience, to your speaking event, your target audience. You can't really effectively communicate to every single one of them, so you want to understand like who's most receptive to your message, maybe, or who are your adversaries, who's there to contest your message. Just do the research, be conscientious, be aware of who you're speaking to, and understand their points of view. Maybe you can get through to them a little better once you understand what their points of view are. You can be more compassionate to their point of view. And when you can show that, they can then, again, reciprocate. Moving on to speech writing. Okay, so we've just kind of got the preliminary out of the way. You're called to speak in front of a group. Where are you speaking, and what kind of cultural environment are you speaking? Who are you speaking to? Why are you there to speak, right? Now you have to like come up with the speech. So, generally speaking, speeches or presentations come in a few varieties. Informative. If you want to take the informative approach, your aim is to present new information and build interest in a topic. So, to argue is also to advocate. To advocate is to give voice to a topic. It's a topic that isn't well understood, or there isn't a lot of interest in there, but you strongly believe that it's a topic that really should be discussed and people do need to be educated about it. Then you want to make it interesting for them. And you want them to learn something. So that's an informative style of presentation. You want to build interest in a topic in the form of a factual report. Provide your own detailed analysis or summary for audiences. Again, people really appreciate it if you can summarize in your own point of view this body of knowledge that's out there, so that they kind of know what to expect if they take on the research for themselves. This is why we have been communicating in social gatherings, having these public speeches. There's a huge market for this kind of a thing, and there always will be, because this is the best way to get introduced to some new area of knowledge. Okay, a persuasive speech. In a persuasive presentation, your aim is to present information that supports your point of view. It's a little different than the informative. In the informative, you're advocating and giving voice to a topic, but you're not really persuading people to act in any way other than to learn about it for themselves. In a persuasive speech, you are trying to present information strictly to support your point of view. For example, the beneficial features of a new product. To convince audiences to support your ideas, your product, your brand. Persuasive speeches can also be inspirational, relying less on, evidence and more on rhetorical language that stirs up the emotions rather than stimulating rational thinking. And a narrative. In informative and persuasive speeches, the success of the speech or its lasting impact that it can have on audiences depends on the credibility of your research and logical presentation. Narrative speeches, by contrast, dispense with the formality. The aim is to be truthful and sincere and to entertain and amuse. So you're not teaching anything. You're just having a chit chat, I guess, with the audience. So these are the three basic styles of presentation. And you don't have to choose one or the other. When you give a talk in informal settings, but that's what it is, right? Like you're trying to fulfill a kind of an objective. Maybe part of your speech is informative, like the introductory part, and the conclusion is more persuasive, perhaps. Okay, now the outline. Depending on the time allotted to your speech, prepare an outline accordingly. So this is always the best place to start. Again, like you're there to give your point of view on a topic. You're not there to write a book and read the book to them. You just need to kind of convey your knowledge to the group, summarize it, make it interesting. So rather than going straight into the research, it's good to start with an outline and just jot down everything you know, like brainstorm onto the page, everything that you can associate to the topic. And once you can do that, then you can like categorize and prioritize the points, what you know that you can talk about, what you know that audiences can understand, what you know to be interesting, what you know to be new information rather than what's already well known, well established. Okay, so that's the first part of the outline, just putting everything that you know, everything that you can associate to the topic into an outline, and then to structure it, choose the points that you can talk about, and how to order those things. So it's okay to be creative at this stage and not too judgmental. You want to put down more ideas than you can possibly talk about, and then as you're working through your main body, and you're incorporating your evidence, and you're beginning to order and structure the talk. You know what you can't put in for time considerations, and you can file that away for later. The topic of the subject. Oh, sorry, the topic. So what is the topic? The topic is the subject matter. In conversation, we like to change topics spontaneously. Like when we're talking to each other, we like to change the topic, keep it interesting. When communicating to audiences, however, we are expected to show self-control by adhering to a single topic. That's why it's good to sort of use a PPT and show the audience the outline. They know what to expect, and that can keep you and the audience working together towards a single aim, a single objective, and that is covering the information given by the outline. When you start to stray from that and go off into unrelated ideas, it tends to be perceived as a waste of time or disorganized. So adhering to by structuring your speech in a way that you can consistently adhere to the topic, it's difficult, but it's what the audience really wants. How we make the topic interesting is how we choose to talk about it. depending on the time available for preparation and speaking, we have to find a topic that is sufficiently interesting. So if you're given the choice of a topic, choose one that is interesting to you. You know, if you have to talk for a full hour about something, you better find a topic that gives you enough interesting information to talk about. If you have 5 minutes to talk about something, you really can't go into a very deep topic. You know, you have to look at something more readily understood, let's say. So yeah, some topics are very deep, and therefore we have to find ways to limit how we discuss the topic. Whenever you do research, you know, whenever you're watching something on the news, try to get into the habit of summarizing everything, every bit of information that you get. If you can simplify it for yourself, you can effectively communicate it to anybody else, and you may need to. The topic will very likely be linked to related topics with background topics in addition. So, you know, one topic is connected in a web of hundreds of other topics, and they're all interrelated, and they interconnect in a loop, I guess. So be cautious on how deeply you dive into your topic, and be aware of how much the audience already understands what you are discussing.
Some people think that there's a TED Talk formula. Give a talk on a round red rug, share a childhood story, divulge a personal secret, end with an inspiring call to action. No, that's not how to think of a TED Talk. In fact, if you overuse those devices, you're just going to come across as cliched or emotionally manipulative. But there is one thing that all great TED Talks have in common, and I would like to share that thing with you. Because over the past 12 years, I've had a ringside seat listening to many hundreds of amazing TED speakers like these. I've helped them prepare their talks for prime time and learned directly from them their secrets of what makes for a great talk. And even though these speakers and their topics all seem completely different, they actually do have one key common ingredient. And it's this. Your number one task as a speaker is to transfer into your listeners' minds an extraordinary gift, a strange and beautiful object that we call an idea. Let me show you what I mean. Here's Haley. She is about to give a TED Talk, and frankly, she's terrified.
Haley Van Dyke.
Over the course of 18 minutes, 1,200 people, many of whom have never seen each other before, are finding that their brains are starting to sync with Haley's brain and with each other. They're literally beginning to exhibit the same brainwave patterns. And I don't just mean that they're feeling the same emotions. There's something even more startling happening. And let's take a look inside Haley's brain for a moment. There are billions of interconnected neurons in an impossible tangle. But look, here, right here, a few million of them are linked to each other in a way which represents a single idea. And incredibly, this exact pattern is being recreated in real time inside the minds of everyone listening. That's right. In just a few minutes, a pattern involving millions of neurons is being teleported into 1,200 minds just by people listening to a voice and watching a face. But wait, what is an idea anyway? Well, you can think of it as a pattern of information that helps you understand and navigate the world. Ideas come in all shapes and sizes, from the complex and analytical to the simple and aesthetic. And here are just a few examples shared from the TED stage. Sir Ken Robinson, creativity is key to our kids' future.
My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status.
Elora Hardy, building from bamboo is beautiful.
It is growing all around us. It's strong. It's elegant. It's earthquake resistant.
Chimamanda Adichie, people are more than a single identity.
The single story creates stereotypes. And the problem with stereotypes is not that they are untrue, but that they are incomplete.
Your mind is teeming with ideas, and not just randomly. They're carefully linked together. Collectively, they form an amazingly complex structure that is your personal worldview. It's your brain's operating system. It's how you navigate the world. And it is built up out of millions of individual ideas. So, for example, if one little component of your worldview is the idea that kittens are adorable, then when you see this, you'll react like this. But if another component of your worldview is the idea that leopards are dangerous, then when you see this, you'll react a little bit differently. So it's pretty obvious why the ideas that make up your worldview are crucial. You need them to be as reliable as possible a guide to the scary but wonderful real world out there. Now, different people's worldviews can be dramatically different. For example, how does your worldview react when you see this image?
What do you think when you look at me? A woman of faith, an expert, maybe even a sister, or oppressed, brainwashed, a terrorist?
Whatever your answer, there are millions of people out there who would react very differently. So that's why ideas really matter. If communicated properly, they're capable of changing forever how someone thinks about the world and shaping their actions both now and well into the future. Ideas are the most powerful force shaping human culture. So if you accept that your number one task as a speaker is to build an idea inside the minds of your audience, here are 4 guidelines for how you should go about that task. 1, limit your talk to just one major idea. Ideas are complex things. You need to slash back your content so that you can focus on the single idea you're most passionate about and give yourself a chance to explain that one thing properly. You have to give context, share examples, make it vivid. So pick one idea and make it the through line running through your entire talk so that everything you say links back to it in some way. 2, give your listeners a reason to care. Before you can start building things inside the minds of your audience, you have to get their permission to welcome you in. And the main tool to achieve that? Curiosity. Stir your audience's curiosity. Use intriguing, provocative questions to identify why something doesn't make sense and needs explaining. If you can reveal a disconnection in someone's worldview, they'll feel the need to bridge that knowledge gap. And once you've sparked that desire, it will be so much easier to start building your idea. 3, build your idea, piece by piece, out of concepts that your audience already understands. You use the power of language to weave together concepts that already exist in your listeners' minds, but not your language, their language. You start where they are. But speakers often forget that many of the terms and concepts they live with are completely unfamiliar to their audiences. Now, metaphors can play a crucial role in showing how the pieces fit together because they reveal the desired shape of the pattern based on an idea that the listener already understands. For example, when Jennifer Kahn wanted to explain the incredible new biotechnology called CRISPR, she said, "It's as if for the first time you had a word processor to edit DNA. CRISPR allows you to cut and paste genetic information really easily." Now, a vivid explanation like that delivers a satisfying aha moment as it snaps into place in our minds. It's important, therefore, to test your talk on trusted friends and find out which parts they get confused by. 4, here's the final tip. Make your idea worth sharing. By that I mean, ask yourself the question, who does this idea benefit? And I need you to be honest with the answer. If the idea only serves you or your organization, then I'm sorry to say it's probably not worth sharing. The audience will see right through you. But if you believe that the idea has the potential to brighten up someone else's day, or change someone else's perspective for the better, or inspire someone to do something differently, then you have the core ingredient to a truly great talk, one that can be a gift to them and to all of us.
And that was Chris J. Anderson, who is I think, the CEO or the founder of this TED, and you should be able to find these talks on your app store. I often use these types of videos in these presentations. They're very, there's a lot of them, and they really can condense, complicated subjects into between 5 and 10 minutes. That's the utility of a good public speaker, being able to quickly summarize and build interest. So if you are interested in developing your skills as a public speaker, come at it from the approach of simplifying your talk down to a single idea. Okay, now what is a thesis? What is the supporting evidence? Your thesis is your main idea. You should be able to summarize or simplify everything you present in one memorable idea. If it doesn't support the thesis, then it doesn't belong there. It belongs in a different kind of a talk. Oftentimes, the thesis statement is one that sides with the conventional wisdom or the consensus view on the topic. So you're not expected to reinvent the wheel. You just need to talk about the topic in your own way. If you want to be more provocative, you can advocate for a new way of thinking about a topic. But you really should, research and understand what the merits are of the conventional wisdom before you start to say that there's something wrong with it. Whichever side you choose, however, you feel about the topic, this is defined by the thesis. So whichever side you choose, however you feel, go with what you feel. This is the thesis that you should take, the one that you feel the most strongly about. The information you provide throughout your speech must then support your thesis, or your audience will get confused about your main message. Don't be on one side and then on the other side of the topic. So once you've got your idea, you know where you stand, you've done the research, and you're ready to organize your information to support your point of view, you need to consider how you're going to introduce this topic. You don't have to start writing the speech with the introduction, but the introduction is the first part of the speech, right? So the outline is introduction, main body, conclusion. The introduction should take between 15 to 20% of your speaking time, not less than that. You needn't rush through the information, particularly in the beginning, as audiences are warming up to your personality and style of presentation, and they're warming up to the environment that they're in as well. So go slow in the beginning. Don't rush. Allow the audience to read your body language, and try to make eye contact with them. Because the introduction is the first part of your speech, and because first impressions influence how the audience perceives and likes or agrees with you, you should pay close attention to having your introduction scripted and rehearsed. Now, these are little techniques that you can use in the introduction. Maybe start with an attention getter. Use a quote, a fact, a question, an analogy, a story with a relevant point to introduce the topic in a way that doesn't explicitly state your point of view. So don't go in to say, I'm going to talk about this. Use some joke or quote or metaphor, analogy, a story about a person that gets the audience to think about, the situation. Using the indirect approach, introducing your topic and your point of view communicates that you have prepared an original and creative presentation, which will be novel and therefore more interesting for audiences, even if they are already familiar with the subject matter of your talk. Again, audiences will come to talks already knowing everything that you're going to say, but if you present it in a way that is original, they may want to learn from how you organized your presentation. Lots of people attend public speeches and listen to talks and so on to again develop their skills of communication, not just learn new information or just appreciate different different people's personalities. Also, during the introduction, you need to try to establish credibility. Introduce yourself to the audience. Briefly summarize your background, education, and work experience to the audience if needed. Explain why you are the person that should be talking about this topic. If you intend to talk about a topic of contention, one that is controversial, you should attempt to establish the audience's trust by demonstrating that you have a good understanding of the subject matter and you have put in the required preparation using verifiable sources of knowledge. So you're not going to be spreading any disinformation or misinformation. Now, the main body, the introduction is about getting attention and establishing credibility, getting the attention and the trust of the audience. Then you can move into your main body. The main body typically consists of 2 to 3 points that are supported by evidence. This is the substance of your talk. Your points of evidence help the audience to understand why you hold a certain point of view, how you came to your conclusions. Sources of evidence. I'll have more to say on this in another lesson, I guess. So we'll skip that. A formal conclusion should do at least one or more of the following. Now your conclusion. You've gone through your main body of the talk. And it's time to conclude it. So all you need to do is restate the main points, explain how they are logically tied together. I really liked how in that video that we just watched, he concluded his little talk with four things that all great speakers do. And really, it was just a variation on one thing, which is, have a strong conviction in a single idea. Restate the main points and explain how they are logically tied together. Restate why the topic and your points are relevant. You've already convinced the audiences, but you just want to try to give the talk some sense of resolution and closure. It can be a little upsetting if somebody just stops speaking mid-sentence. So a conclusion, making a speech is all about selling yourself to the audience. You're not really there to inform as much as you are to persuade and influence and sell yourself to the audience. If they agree with your message and they're interested in your message, they'll go and do the research for themselves. So you're selling the idea through, how credible you are as a presenter. So it's really all about selling yourself. Some people get confused about putting the information ahead of the presentation. If you have done this successfully, there is little need to spend any lengthy amount of time on the conclusion. So indicate that your speech is drawing to a close, give your personal feelings on the topic, and invite the audience to do their own research. If they are interested, then provide guidance to information sources. If you are proposing a solution to a problem, for example, an environmental or social problem, you can give the audience your personal advice on how they can join in your cause. All right. We're not going to do the rhetorical technique. We're just going to finish it up in the next 5 minutes with speech delivery. So body language and voice control. This is there's two important aspects to your presentation. There is your research and your outline, and then the delivery. And the delivery, if you've done the preparation, if you've done the research, you can feel confident about your delivery. You have something to say. And if you've memorized or internalized the information, you don't really rely on the notes so much. If you get into the habit of summarizing and paraphrasing, you don't even really need to look at the words. And you can use that attention to communicate to the audience and respond to their body language cues as well. So equally more important to the substance of your talk is how you present yourself in the manner of your dress and grooming, or how you compose yourself non-verbally to the audience. Audiences trust a speaker who can demonstrate confidence, and this is accomplished through consistent eye contact, upright posture, and good vocal control. Voice control. Intonation is vocal punctuation. Not the first time I've said it. Punctuation, the periods and the commas and the question marks and the exclamation marks, right? These points of punctuation, they signal to the reader or the listener that there are groupings of ideas. So, punctuation really matters because, we parse language in chunks, and punctuation exists so that we can separate the ideas, separate the parts of speech, make sense of, where the sentence begins and ends, and maybe the sentence takes a little circuitous detour. That's what punctuation does, and that just helps the audience sort of contain the words into a structure, into a unit. A sentence and a paragraph is a unit of information. So anyway, intonation intonation is vocal punctuation. The rising and the falling indicates when the sentence begins and ends, and whether it's a question, which keywords really matter, and it's just more pleasing to the ear. So here we have a photo of Martin Luther King and another night. I'll play the speech, his most famous speech. So you use your voice and your emotions to punctuate sentences with a bold exclamation. Speaking with a rising and falling pitch and volume creates contrast, difference, and tension, a sense of discomfort. A speaker who varies their emotional delivery from relaxed to passionate evokes a feeling of suspense in audiences. So, great. I can finish it off with this little slide here. Great speakers, we remember and enjoy great speakers and speeches that are insightful, where you feel that the speaker had something personal to say that maybe you kind of feel the same way about. Informative, also like well-researched, and there's new information in there. Original. Entertaining, interesting, well-organized and structured. Memorable, using colors and pictures and videos, and little surprises. Meaningful, stimulating, and engaging. And again, I gave you a worksheet. There it is. Define your purpose. Use impactful sentences. Try to be humorous. Try to be serious. Pay attention to your audience and talk to the audience. Stick to your main point and use different rhetorical techniques and sources of evidence that can support your key points. And then wrap it up with a conclusion that has some positive solutions in it. Next week's announcement. So next week we're going to be looking at biographies of history's great icons, political and business leaders, scientists, thinkers, and artists. It's a history lesson. We're talking about public speaking, communication this week, and the great leaders in history are those that are remembered for their ideas, ultimately, their contribution to our collective. A collective body of knowledge. So political and business leaders scientists, thinkers, and artists. We'll be looking at maybe 2 or 3 great people in history, and that will be part of a series as well. So, yeah, for those of you that could come tonight, I want to thank you, and I'll see you next week, okay? Enjoy the rest of your weekend. How do you say it? Jira Kwaila. Happy holidays. Thank you.